Peas on Moss is brought to you by Kimberly Schaub, a culinary scientist turned business developer. Over the past 4 years, the audience has downloaded episodes over 40,000 times, and we have 1,500 impressions across the website and a host of social media platforms. Will you consider contributing to the show to help keep it on air? Donations through Patreon help to offset the cost of web hosting, editing, and producing the various Peas on Moss offerings, from podcast episodes to videos, and every little bit helps, from corporate advertisement to sponsored content and private contributions. Reach out to me on peasonmoss.com for details. Hey Peas on Moss listeners, Kimberly Schaub here. Welcome to a special episode recording. I know, I told you that episodes this season would be short, quick bites of some of the incredible insights shared by podcast guests, and someday we would air their full interviews. But this special episode is a full-length interview that I just couldn't bear to cut down. My guest this week is Chip Potter, the Executive Director of the Research Chefs Association. Until 2020, I hadn't really interacted with him a great deal. A few networking events, a few conversations about the podcast. Chip attends the various RCA committee and leadership meetings, and I'm a volunteer on the membership committee. He has shared input from board meetings with the committee members as needed and has supported RCA staff through Smith-Buckland to help the volunteer leaders guide the organization. I have always been a bit curious about how nonprofit leadership structures work. How are they arranged, and how is continuity maintained through the various changes in volunteer participation and board membership? Well, Chip agreed to help provide insights to the structure and share his story of how he learned about RCA. Shout out to Chef Harry Crane. He also talks about the impact that networking has had on his career success and offers some key suggestions to take advantage of the network you have, whether that's through your work or RCA membership. Spoiler, you're always networking. Finally, Chip and I discuss the state of RCA now and what the outlook is. I hope you enjoy the special full-length episode with Chip Potter. So Chip, as the Executive Director of the Research Chefs Association, what in the world does that mean?
In a short way to answer that question, I'm the Chief Executive Officer, the CEO of the Research Chefs Association. And I want to put that in perspective because I report to the Board of Directors of the Research Chefs Association. So Justin Kantak is our current president, and he's chairman of the board, is another way to think about his role as president, as president of RCA. So my job is to take the direction and where the RCA is going as directed by the board of directors, and work with a staff of professionals to bring those directions to life. So as basically the chief administrative or staff officer, that's my role. I'm the liaison between the board of directors and our staff, and I ensure that the staff is completely focused on objectives that we need to accomplish in the short and long term, that the strategies that are being developed are appropriate for those objectives, that align with our capabilities and bring results to the organization. I'm held accountable to the RCA Board of Directors. My performance is under their scrutiny, under their direction. And everything that I do is designed to help promote and develop and grow the Research Chefs Association through the resources that we bring to our members. The benefit for RCA is really quite noticeable because one way I like to say it is RCA takes advantage of the breadth and depth of resources that exist within a professional organization like Smith-Buckland. We have a large staff of individuals within our company focused on education, adult learning, focused on events, focused on sales, sponsorships, trade shows, marketing, finance, general strategy, and the like. So that's a big benefit that RCA and other client organizations enjoy. It makes RCA kind of look bigger. And the resources that we bring to the table allows RCA to behave and be an active part of the food industry in such a way that would never be possible if they had what's often referred to as a standalone staff. And it actually becomes a much more affordable model. So the way I like to think about it for folks who might have this kind of experience is like an advertising agency. when a corporation or a brand or a company hires an ad agency, that ad agency will have an account executive or a director or a supervisor of some sort that is the lead individual for that account. And that would be my role. Within that ad agency, you're going to have a creative team. You'll have a digital team. You'll have a media team, public relations team, a promotions team, things like that. That's the same thing that we have at Smith Buckland.
So then with the volunteers for the RCA, and I've had the opportunity to volunteer on a few different committees at this point.
Yes, you have.
And I think that's been really important to my experience when Jeff Kuzminer invited me to join the committee planning, or rather the conference planning committee for the Savannah conference. I was so bought into every step of Savannah. Like, I was looking at the conference center as I walked in the door. I was thinking about how the badges landed on our shirts. I mean, it was just the buy-in was crazy. And it kept going for me.
Well, and that's exactly right. What you're demonstrating there is an awareness of all the things that happen behind the scenes to make an event work. But it's all coming from people, Kimberly, like you. You volunteer your time and your skills to RCA in addition to your regular job. And that's so valuable to us. And we have such a great deal of respect for folks like you who give of your time and skills to make RCA great. And, that partnership between volunteers like yourself and your active involvement to help drive things forward through our staff and with our staff makes RCA hum the way it does.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know if committee volunteering is the only way that we can get involved. What are some ways that you've seen other members give of their time or their effort or skills?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, of course, is one of the main resources and benefits that folks see for RCA, and that is the collaboration and networking that goes on among all of our members. And where that really manifests itself is on our website at RCA Connect. I'm sure, the folks who have been involved with RCA are currently members or former members or folks who are thinking. That is very often cited as the most important benefit of joining RCA. And this is where members contribute. They help each other. They solve each other's problems. And that's almost the hallmark of RCA is the organization's ability to solve problems. And that cuts across, individuals who post on RCA Connect that I'm in search of a blueberry concentrate that can survive freeze-thaw and meet certain FDA standards and things like that. And the response from members to help that person with that question is amazing. So people give of their time, and it's so valuable, and we're very grateful for that time on committees. And we could talk about that separately. But first and foremost, for our members to monitor that RCA Connect interface on our website, to see the questions that are being asked, and to give of their advice, share names, companies, ways to solve problems. That's probably the biggest thing that people give to this organization. Is this collaborative way of solving problems. I'm a food scientist. Let me help you with this because as a chef, you might not know that. And the flip side, it's really a fascinating thing. And I truthfully, it's hard to find anything else, any other resource in this industry where that happens. This willingness to collaborate and help and support each other, people giving of their time to help others with the problems that they have. So that's the big thing. The second thing I would say, just locally, is our region hubs. And whether it's Chicagoland, Northwest Arkansas, Twin Cities, Metro New York, we have, I think at last count, 12 some odd region hubs plus one that we've just launched in Europe. And so if you happen to be either a member or not even a member, and you live within proximity of those hubs, come join those region events. A lot of them are happening virtually right now, of course. But in those region events, there's great learning that goes on. You get to meet new folks. And that's another great way to contribute, is to be active in those region hubs. So there are certain things that you can do, and that sort of dips your toe in the water of RCA. by doing those things, helping with RCA Connect, maybe participating in the regions. And that creates the motivation for a lot of folks to step up their game to, hey, I'd really like to be an active member of our membership committee. I'd really like to help plan our next conference. I'd really like to, help with our sales and sponsorship efforts. And that's when people step up to the plate, volunteer their time on committees. So there's lots of great ways to promote and drive RCA without being on a committee by leveraging some of those other things, the regions and RCA Connect.
Absolutely. So how did you get involved with the RCA yourself and eventually take on the executive director role? Can you tell us your origin story a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I've been in the food industry, kind of go ahead and go out on a limb here and just say it. I've been in the food industry since 1988. So you guys can go ahead and do the math on just how old I am, but that's okay. I'm quite comfortable with that. I'm proud of my history in the food industry dating back to then. But I first became acquainted with RCA in the mid 2000s with Chef Harry Crane, who worked with me, was a partner of mine when I worked at Kraft Foods. And Chef Harry was a president of RCA for a period of time, was very active in the organization. And one of the roles I had at Kraft was I was a director for our enhancers business in food service. And so I was interacting with folks like Chef Harry Crane on, salad recipe things and barbecue sauce and the like. And he was always describing the Research Chefs Association and his involvement in that. And so I first became aware of the organization then. And then I know that Kraft supported Harry in his work with RCA. And I know he's happily retired. And Harry, if you're listening, miss you and love you. Interestingly enough, my very first role in 1988 was working on office coffee on Folgers. And OCS is part of NAMA. And so I was able to get reacquainted with that industry, rekindle old friendships, and it was really a great experience. But I got about 2 years into the burn, a phone call from a recruiter about an organization called the Research Chefs Association. Chip, do you know anything about them? Are you kidding me? Of course I do. And of course it was part of Smith Buckland. So a number of those things kind of converged for me, the opportunity to come and be a part of an organization like Smith Buckland, but to be asked and invited, I should say, to participate in the interview process to become the executive director for RCA I just jumped through my skin. It was such a cool thing. I remember saying to my wife how I have to get this job. RCA goes back in my history. I'm very familiar with who and what they are, and I think I could really add value as their executive. And I was fortunate enough where things worked out, and I'm grateful and honored and humbled in some respects that they selected me to lead as the executive director. So that's kind of where it goes. It's amazing how things circle back. It's in the food industry. I know I'm not the only one who says it, but as big as this industry is, it seems like we're always 2 degrees away from somebody or something, and that's kind of worked out in my career as well to my benefit.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see where the seeds that are planted in our lives, at other points come back, have grown up into these beautiful trees that we weren't necessarily cultivating. But here it is because it was something core to who you are, to participate and lead in the food industry. So
yes,
for me, and I think this is a bit of a gimme question, but how has relationships and network affected your career over time?
Well, I think it is somewhat of an easy one. It's really at the core of making your career go. Nobody is successful in their career with their heads down and just working as a lone wolf. That might be well and good if you're given a project or an assignment, but the only way that you're going to be able to ascend in your career is to learn from others. And, it's really important, particularly for the younger folks who are just starting out their career, to purposely identify role models and to do it on your own. Don't let somebody else assign a role model to you. Find somebody that you admire in the industry, somebody that you've seen present, somebody, a colleague within your organization who demonstrates the habits and practices that you'd like to emulate to become successful. And once you've identified that person, outreach, schedule lunch, have a Zoom call, acknowledge what that person means to you in terms of how you're trying to manage your career and how much you'd like to learn from that person. And don't limit it to just one person. There might be somebody you admire for their general management skills. There might be somebody you admire for their political skills or for their financial acumen. Reach out to those folks and leverage them to help you in your career, because I can guarantee you those people that you reach out to want to help you. So always be thinking in those terms about your own brand and who you are and where you want to go, and to have the self-awareness to identify your weaknesses and find the folks who do it well and have them help you. That's going to serve you well. There are so many other more obvious ways to network. And, I just described some things with the Research Chefs Association, how networking and collaboration is such an important thing. But there's all sorts of other ways that you can network and collaborate through LinkedIn and through other organizations that are out there, and to put yourself out there as interested in connecting and learning more is a great skill. The other thing I'd like to tell folks is, when you're meeting with vendors or you're meeting with customers or individuals in other organizations, is to always be thinking, how can I learn from those folks? This might be a company that I'd like to go work for. Or there's an individual who works for this company that I think I can tap into and can really help my career. I mean, I'd like to leave a good impression with a vendor, with a partner, with a customer, where they want to do business not only with my company, but with me. And so as my career advances and as their career advances, we've created that connectivity that can pay itself off, maybe 10 years down the road. So there's always, anytime you're in front of somebody, regardless of who that somebody is, there's always that opportunity to plant those seeds for future opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. Thinking about that vendor relationship reminds me of my first research chef role, where I got to know a potential co-packer really well. Obviously, we'd gone through some challenges together for launching a product, as one does. And, we kept a positive relationship through problem solving. And even today, this individual is someone I can reach out to ask for a recommendation or kind of a different perspective. And, that person's career has moved on and all of those things, but that relationship still exists.
Yeah, that's a great example, Kimberly. And I can really appreciate that, because, in fact, I hesitate. I found myself using the word vendor, and I kind of hate that term because it sounds so transactional, right? You should never be treating people as a vendor. You should be treating them as a business partner. And you've just described what that means, is that, if you can make their problem yours, and you take the effort and the initiative to help them solve that problem in a way that, they hang up the phone or they finish their interaction with you and they're like, wow, Kimberly, I want to remember Kimberly. She really stepped it up for me on something that helped me make my life easier, that helped me solve my problems. So you've just described exactly what the benefit that comes out, because they remember that. You separate yourself from others they may be interacting with, and in the short term, you might gain business, you might be able to, secure that contract, whatever the case may be. But it's so much more than that transaction, and that's why kind of catching myself and would love to hit the rewind button. I use that word vendor. That's actually a term I really don't like, because it just sounds so transactional. It's like, I have a vendor who gives me paper for my printer. That's not how I want to treat, the people that I interact with to do my job and to help them do things well. And you should be treating everybody as partners, because you never know where that individual is going to surface up again in your career. And in the food industry, I know a lot of people would say the same thing. It's amazing how often you run into people over the course of time, and you want them to remember you under those really great circumstances where you treated them as a partner, not as a vendor. And that pays dividends down the road. So, Kimberly, great example there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, as far as the terms that we use really do help to set the tone And I know that we've talked about that in the different volunteer positions, that you and I have overlapped in, is
Yeah.
really understanding the tone that we set as volunteers, as leaders, as
Yep.
professionals in this industry. The words we use help us to set a baseline. So you're absolutely right. They're our partners in whatever this project is. It's kind of the same thing, when I was in restaurants and we talked about people coming in to be served dinner. They were our guests. We were trying to give them their best experiences for that mealtime because they could have chosen any other place to go.
Yeah.
That's a really good reminder. You were a guest at my table, whether that's, a business transaction, it can be leveled up into a longer term connection through the business over time.
Yeah. I love how you use the term guests. Restaurants, in the word we've always used in the business was patrons. And that's okay. I think guests is a great term, a great way to think about it. And, the building relationships, you mentioned earlier tone, and I'd like to offer this up in terms of tone. And it's something that I've tried to practice in my own life and in my own career. And that is, number one, look for ways to say yes when you're dealing with somebody. And whether it be a problem or somebody's making a request of you, and maybe on the surface that particular request, that you can't do it. And I know we get a lot of coaching from folks that, you don't always have to say yes. But if you look for ways to say yes, and you try to solve that problem by looking for ways to say yes, when you do come back and you have to decline, you've given a great deal of respect to that person across the table from you in exploring how can we make this happen. And when you do have to say no, for whatever the reason may be, you can offer up some very meaningful reasons why you have to say no, and maybe even through that process offer up some other ideas that help them along. So that's a great way to kind of think about tone. And the other thing to think about tone in a similar sense is how can we make it easy for somebody to say yes to us? A lot of times we make our customers or our partners work for our business, and it should be the other way around. Just in our board meeting 2 days ago, we talked about our members and our sponsors and our exhibitors. How can we make it easy for those folks to say yes to RCA? And how much work can we take off of their plate so that when we do have a conversation, a dialogue with them, or present an opportunity, it's really easy for them to say yes. And if you use that kind of tone in terms of how you work behind the scenes and how you interact with folks, and it also speaks, Kimberly, to the words you use. Partners, not vendors, guests, not, customers. Those things pay off in the long term because it shows that desire that you have to create success, and to model that success moving forward through that tone is a great way to do it.
So, speaking of tough topics, 2020
Yeah,
is a bit of a year of tough topics.
indeed.
And I know that the Research Chefs Association had to cancel their spring conference. It's our annual conference that everyone looks forward to. And I know, each of us who was planning on attending feels a sense of loss. And I can only
Yeah.
imagine what that actually looks like for the leadership, the volunteer board of directors, as well as for the Smith Buckland staff. Could you kind of share perhaps what was going on in the background and where are we at this moment?
Sure. Well, yeah, it was a great sense of loss in a variety of senses, of course, that we had to cancel the in-person San Diego portion of our conference this year. If there's anything I will say, let's not wallow in pity and woe is me. Pity parties are not productive and not helpful. We immediately, both with the board of directors leadership and kudos to Justin as well for recognizing this as actually an opportunity, which of course sounds like a cliche, but it harkens back to what I said earlier about what's at the heart of RCA, which is we solve problems. We're an innovative organization that looks for creative solutions that bring success. And, I'll be truthful here, and this is with all honesty. We saw the cancellation as a great opportunity for us to do something that's meaningful for our members in light of all of the challenging things that were in front of us. So when we pivoted to what was now called Powered Up, and the way Powered Up started, how that conversation began, and how it turned into that 5-week event is something that's very inspiring to me. I know it's inspiring to Justin and our board of directors and everybody else who was involved. I know it was inspiring absolutely to our staff. I see our staff consistently hold up our Powered Up event as the model of how to be thinking about ways to pivot when you're faced with such a challenge. Now, to be honest, Powered Up from a financial standpoint comes nowhere near to the financial opportunity that having an in-person conference brings to the table. But Powered Up was as a standalone P&L, was a successful venture for us. And we're very grateful for our sponsors. ADM was our presenting sponsor throughout, and we're grateful for their support. All the speakers scheduled for San Diego easily rotated to Powered Up. So we wouldn't be able to make that happen without the great speakers and sponsors. And it turned into a really positive event. We made money on it as a standalone event. Nowhere near what we would have seen with San Diego, of course. So we actually, in the history of RCA, Powered Up will be held as one of the highlights in the history of our organization. But the reality is, canceling San Diego meant a large portion of the organization's resources were suddenly gone. And so this is where, we look at the value of our organization to not only our members, but potential members and the like. And we see this in a similar sense as a great opportunity for our organization to promote the benefits of what it means to be a member, what it means to be a sponsor partner, and everything that brings to the table. But we're also using this as an opportunity to tell individuals in the industry that RCA is a great organization for you to join, to be a part of, because if you happen to, unfortunately be furloughed or being put in a position where you've sadly had to lose your job, we have a job board. We have the RCA Connect that we talked about earlier, where people who are willing to, interact with you and advise and support. We have great learning through our webinars, our learning on the website that becomes a real valuable resource for folks, not only when they're employed, but if you're unemployed. Now more than ever is a great opportunity. So while we're challenged with, the realities of canceling San Diego, it also allows us to draw a lot more attention to what it means to be a member of RCA and to take advantage of your current membership, to make more out of it than what you have before. And if you're on the periphery thinking about joining, now's a great time to join because of all the things that we can help for individuals in this industry move themselves forward. When we thought about Powered Up, while we're missing the networking and the in-person collaboration, Powered Up delivered on the mission of our organization, which is elevating product development and providing content and learning that allows for product development to grow and flourish. And we'll continue to be focused on that. And while we had to miss out on the face-to-face handshakes and goodwill with each other, we were still very central to our mission and vision for RCA with Powered Up around the learning. And that goes without saying. We'll have content, whether you're in person or live joining us live streaming, that is unprecedented, that's unmatched, that will help you in your career, that will help you in your job, that will help you learn and understand what's new and different and things that you need to be aware of to be successful moving forward. That's never going to go away.
Wow. Well, I am really excited. I find our talk today to be really inspiring and encouraging. I know we have a road ahead and quite a bit of work to do.
Sure.
Whether we're active volunteers or thinking about membership or memberships thinking about getting involved more. I think there's there is a lot of opportunity for us to step up as members, for us to find ways to get into the association. There's obviously you can pay the membership fee, and that is obviously the way to become a member. But we also have a lot of free and other activities going on in order to continue to build up the industry outside of just membership, to your exact point.
Yep.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing
Yeah.
what we do with education this year and just other ways for us to stay involved and in touch with each other.
This is the time for individuals to really engage with RCA because of everything that we bring to the table for you as a member, as a potential member. It's a resource that you can tap into that can make your downtime productive. If you happen to be, still, working in an organization where you're able to continue with what your job is, what a great resource for you to collaborate with colleagues, to learn from each other, to participate in the education that we have online through our webinars, through regions. This is a great opportunity. And while it's the same when things are good, it's times that are challenging where organizations like RCA become much more valuable to the industry and to our members and to potential members. And if you're not taking advantage of it, you should. You should be diving into it. You should be contacting individuals that are involved in RCA and learn more about how, what they're gaining out of membership. This is a perfect time to step up and step in. If you're a current member, become more active, participate in the dialogue on RCA Connect, join the region events, find ways to contribute because that'll pay dividends to you personally. And if you're on the periphery and you're kind of scratching your head and wondering if RCA is right for you, absolutely now is the right time to jump in because there's so much that we can offer to help you in your career development and the opportunities that present themselves. So thank you for allowing me that little bit of a soapbox here, but jump in and come be part of it.
Yeah, I would say stay on the soapbox for a second. I would invite folks who have decided not to join or who are deciding not to renew or considering not renewing their membership. I would suggest and invite you to reach out to one of us. You please contact me. My contact information is everywhere. And Chip or Justin or any of the other board members, because we've all chosen to volunteer for specific reasons. We'd love to hear the reasons that don't resonate with you and what would resonate with you and what would serve your needs. I think that's the beauty of being such a small association is we have the ability and opportunity to pivot where we need to. It's a small world, it's a small industry, and so why not take the time and effort to shape an association that meets the needs that we have in our careers?
Absolutely. And for everybody, that's coming from Kimberly, a member who's getting great value out of it. Kimberly is, very active in our organization, participating in a variety of committees, but she's not a board member. She's a member just like you. And so, it's your organization. And what I will say is kind of another hallmark of RCA is that willingness for people to help each other out. I mean, that's what we do. That's who we are. Jump in because you're going to find just a load of people who are going to be right there by your side to help you through the tough times, to help you solve the problems, and to help you bring, new learning and new resources and new opportunities to you that will take you to places you've never been before and places you probably could never conceive would be possible by taking advantage of what RCA has to offer to you. So I know there's folks who you could speak to and say, I don't know where I'd be without RCA. And I'd love for that to be your story as well.
Wow. Well, thank you, Chip, so much for just joining me on the podcast to share about the RCA. I'm obviously
Absolutely.
very passionate about it. And it was
We're
great.
grateful for that.
Thank you. It was really great to understand and learn more about the leadership structure or the management structure of the RCA. It always seemed very nebulous to me, so I appreciate that you illustrated that. And then I'm so glad that you're the executive director. You come from the food industry. have experience in nonprofit and have been able to serve the Research Chefs Association in some of its, best years and some of its less than best years, but our opportunity to be the best.
Well, I appreciate your words. You're very kind, and thank you for that. And my success comes from folks like you and our board and for the members. And we've been able to turn the corner and make RCA great because of everybody that's involved. And so I'm the beneficiary of that. But thank you for your comments about myself and my contributions. And I'm grateful to have this opportunity. I never forget that this is not my organization. This is an organization that belongs, Kimberly, to you and to all the members. And it's my job to ensure that everything that goes on with RCA is something that's very relevant and meaningful to you. It's your organization. Let me help you make this organization even better, even greater for the future. I'm happy to be in that role, and I look forward to making that come a reality in the future.
RCA is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year, and it has also encountered financial losses from the cancellation of now 2 in-person conferences due to the pandemic. There is a significant need to support the RCA now so that we can keep it going for another 25 years, or more, of course. And there are myriad ways to contribute, from renewing your own membership, inviting colleagues to sign up, buying swag or books, or direct donations. It's challenging to be asking for money in a time that finances aren't easy for so many, and RCA volunteers are keenly aware of that. At the same time, there are costs to running the nonprofit and providing the resources we benefit from. Members, new and legacy, have been stepping up with planning events, hosting presentations, matching fundraising contributions, and activity participation, and this is helping. Peas on Moss doesn't have a great deal of resources, but I've been honored to moderate several panel discussions and to host the Cooking at Home with RCA Chefs cooking series, an engaging idea created by Chef Jeffrey Kuzminer and going through February. Whether you're able to give, whether that's time or funds, your activity and involvement in RCA are valuable, and the RCA is built to be an organization to support and serve the needs of its members. I'm looking forward to a strong future, and it will be a lot of work to get there.